Ever sat in a doctor's office thinking, they just don't get it? Or search for health advice online, but you can't understand it? Felt unheard? You're not alone, and you found your solution with Health Hour. Every Saturday at 11 a.m. This is your space where Caribbean and African healthcare professionals speak about health with a focus on Black people. We tackle the topics that keep you up at night: mental health, chronic conditions, preventive care, sexual health, men's health, women's health, heart disease, and much more. All with the cultural context that matters, because our Black doctors understand the unique challenges we face. Here is what you can expect: real talk from doctors who look like you and get it, lived experience testimonies, practical advice, illness prevention and management tips, and a space of understanding without judgment. You also get to ask questions. Your questions drive the conversation. Health Hour, where community meets Black health expertise.
Well, good morning, good morning, good morning. Happy New Year to you all. It's such an honor and a pleasure to see you all again this morning. You're welcome to the Health Hour. My name is Joseph. I am a GP, a local GP here in Greater Manchester with special interest in mental health. I'm also a pastor of Grace Community Church, a local Pentecostal church here in Manchester. I'm an ordained reverend. So today we have a treat for you because we are going to be talking about a very, very, very important subject from where I stand. And I have a very, very revered colleague who will be co-hosting with me today and sharing some insights as well. Dr. Mohamed Kamara. He's a consultant in accident and emergency. Let me just say as a disclaimer to Dr. Kamara, he manages to always look young, no matter how old he is. I've known him for about 15, 20 years. I actually worked under him several years ago, so I'm kind of biased towards him. He's one of the nicest people I know. I don't know how he manages to stay young, but we'll need to ask him that. Maybe we'll bring it as part of the questions later on. So he'll be doing a presentation from an Islamic perspective, and we'll just sort of answer all the other questions that come about. Feel free to ask your questions, put them in the chat box on YouTube. There are moderators there. And if there's any other issues, if you want to contribute, these are interactive sessions that are meant for you. Don't forget that we are hosting this in coordination with all the other partners of CAN that will be shared with you, all the other partners of CAN that will be shared with you at the end of this presentation. All right. So I have a very quick generic presentation to speak to you about in terms of faith, health, spirituality, and goal setting. Knowing that it's the beginning of the year, it's really important that we start this on a very, very positive note, and we ensure that we sort of get our priorities in order. So the subject is faith and spirituality, goals in 2026. All right, I'll be sharing some slides with you. Right, so let's go into presentation mode. Oh, what's happened to my slide? We've had technical issues all morning. We'll get there eventually. There we go. Okay. Once I try to get this into presentation mode, it goes off. Right, can we all see my slides? Yes, excellent. I'm not sure what's going on, admin team, but it keeps clicking off. We'll make do with it as it is. So that's me. Those are my titles. There wasn't enough space to put all my titles. I'm sure Mo has more titles to add. So I'll leave him with the titles. He has a lot more than I do. So we want to start off by talking about spirituality and religion in general. So what I tried to do was I went into what is called a systemic review of research. There was a paper that was done by a gentleman called Koning et al. Between 1872 and 2010. And what he did was to look at all the papers, all the research, over 366 of them that have been done regarding how spirituality affects our health. It's found in the Journal of National Medicine. You can check it online if you have access to it. So how religion and spirituality affects health. Basically, they lumped everything, and it's nothing about one specific religion. They were looking at any kind of belief in the supernatural. So whether it is Christian, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, Star Wars, Native African religion, anybody that believes at all in the supernatural, how it affects their health. Now, I must say that about 80% of the research that was done was centered around mental health and well-being, which is one of my special interests. So that I've looked at a lot of all these papers. What a systemic review does, it summarizes each of these different papers, each of the different research, and gives us sort of a snapshot or a summary of what everybody has said. And it was very interesting because a lot of the details were quite unanimous, even though there was different research from different places, different parts of the world, Scandinavia, the US, in Africa, in Asia, in India. All these research, all of them were corroborating the same thing. Now, just by way of history, most in the past, going back to as far as the 5th century or even earlier, most religious institutions doubled as health centers. So what you find is that your priest was also the person who delivered your baby, who also administered medication. This was commonplace, irrespective of the culture, irrespective of the location. In Africa, the native doctor was also the spiritual native, the spiritual compass, as it were. As a matter of fact, I found out recently that my grandfather, my own grandfather, was actually involved in helping women deliver babies because he had a knowledge of herbs and he would often prescribe things. So most religious institutions doubled as health centers. The earliest mental institution was established in Europe by some monks as far back as the 12th century. So this research tells us. Separation began in the West in the 17th century when societies began to evolve in quotes. However, most cultures still have this intricate connection where the imam, the priest, the pastor, the Tao, the Buddha is often called upon, not just for spiritual needs, but also for health needs. So we have this intricate connection, and it's more prominent, more noticeable, especially in the Afro-Caribbean setting. Now, looking at health benefits in general, and I'm summarizing this because all these were part of the research that was done from this systemic review that was done. And they found out that anybody that had any kind of faith, any kind of spirituality at all, any kind of belief in the higher power, they coped better with adversity. And the reason is not far-fetched. If you have hope in something that's bigger than you, that's higher than you, adversity is going to look less daunting. But this is all the research that was done. About 68% of all the papers showed that people coped better with adversity, having some kind of faith, having some kind of religious inclination. Also, it was found that there was a lot of positive emotions in people who exhibited faith. So altruism, being kind, being compassionate, being forgiving, being grateful. It was also found that a lot of people had high self-esteem, higher self-esteem comparative to the average population. Notice that this is in comparison to the average population. There was also an expression of greater hope and optimism for the future. Now, the interesting part for me, which I hadn't quite caught on to until I was really looking into this, was that this directly correlated to a reduction in depression, anxiety, bipolar illness, a direct correlation. Now, what that means for us as medics is that if you do this, you will get that. And this is exactly what they're trying to establish in this research, that people who are more religious, people who had a more sense of spirituality, had less reduction, less anxiety, and less of these illnesses. Obviously, they mention about the fact that People had higher, more meaning, more purpose to their lives. There was a reduction in suicide. That one interested me. Marital stability, believe it or not. Now, because most of the time, people who are more likely to be religious or spiritual had moral codes, because that's the definition of being religious. Being religious is basically defined as anyone who has a set of moral codes or rules by which they live their lives and believe in some kind of higher power. It doesn't matter which one you choose. And I know there are many people with different types. There are some people that don't believe that anything spiritual. And I think perhaps my presentation speaks more to those people, but also to remind us that there is a spiritual component to our health. Marital stability, reduction in hypertension, heart disease, stroke, reduction in dementia, better immune systems, and lower mortality rates, at least up to 37%, lived longer compared to the average population. This is all research. I like to keep it really simple when I do medical presentations. So what are some of the things, in terms of the subject of today, we're looking at the fact that we're starting a new year and we need to set goals and things like that. I've kept this brief because Dr. Kamara is going to come and talk about things, similar things, and break these things down and look at it more from an Islamic perspective, but also just go into more in-depth detail. In terms of setting goals, which we all know we need to do and somehow never get around to it, or we set the goals and don't ever do it, goal setting is defined as specific actionable objectives and creating a plan to achieve them. Specific actionable objectives and creating a plan. We all know about SMARTs. The goals need to be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. What I like about goals is that it creates focus, it drives up productivity, it saves time wasted, and it actually saves organizations money. It creates direction for individuals and organizations, creating a better working environment to work and thrive. One of my mentors always used to say, failure to plan is planning to fail. Lastly, in terms of how to set up, how to actually do goal setting, there's a gentleman called Brian Tracy, who's a leadership expert. One of my, one of the things I do. Okay, someone was trying to mute me. I'm sure they are Arsenal fans, because no Man United fan would try to mute me while I'm giving this kind of talk. So steps to goal setting. The first thing you want to do is to decide on what you want. Decide exactly what you want. Write it down. Ancient Chinese proverbs say that the faintest ink is better than the best memory. Write it down. Set a deadline. Make a list of steps to get there. This is the part I like best. Organize that list in terms of priorities. And then take action. It has to be daily action, weekly action, monthly action. The best laid plans, whatever plans you have, if you don't decide to act on it, if you don't decide to take a step towards those plans will continue to remain plans. They'll just be dreams. They'll just be fantasies. They will never, ever, ever come to fruition. Lastly, reevaluate constantly and adjust accordingly. This is where a lot of people sometimes miss it, because we think that because we've set a goal, we want to go in a certain direction, you can't do a U-turn or you can't take a sideways turn. Always be ready to change. Always be ready to change. Charles Darwin famously said that the creatures that survived everything that over the years were not the smartest, they were not the biggest, they were not the most intelligent, but they were the ones that were willing to change. So a willingness to change is part and parcel of the process of goal setting. I've put here, you can't see it, the sign in yellow, that the biggest journey starts by taking the smallest steps. Everything works better when you take a step forward. If you don't take a step, nothing actually happens. Right, that's my 10 minutes up. I like to keep to time. So I'm going to invite someone who, like I said, managed to remain young over so many years. He is a consultant in emergency medicine, and he's also he's one of the loveliest people I know. Please welcome with me, Dr. Mohamed Kamara.
Intro. Oh man.
Mo, you're on.
Am I? Yeah,
Yes.
I know I'm on, but I can't see myself.
We can see you.
Can you? All right. There's something that's popped up that is actually obscuring my view.
Ah.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So I'll try to share. Right. So thank you so much, my brother. I don't even know what to say. He's actually done more than I ever dreamed of doing. Now, this is me. I'm sure I don't need introducing, as it were. However, I'm sure he doesn't know I am an Al-Haji as well. At the same time, people say I am a sheikh. So there's so much there. But above all, I'm one of the few misters. I had to put doctor because that's what people respect. That's what people know. Many people don't know that a mister is somebody who did surgery and obviously passed their surgical exams. In essence, they were barbers. I don't know if many people know that, but that's what it is. So I'm one of the few ones still around, as it were. Okay. I was asked to speak on health and faith from an Islamic perspective, me being a Muslim. And to that end, we always give thanks and praise to the Almighty, and we give supplications or send supplications to our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him. We pray that the year as we started would be a lot better than it was last year. We need some peace in the world, and we need some progress in the world in terms of equity for our people, in terms of health benefits. So we always need to put one thing in mind, that health, as it were, is probably a loan. If you remember, I don't know if you ever have come across this. Banks nowadays, if you don't use your overdraft facilities, like say, for example, you have 10 grand overdraft, if you don't use it for a year or two, what they do is they cut it down to like 250. In my case, that's what happened. And so they wanted me to become, a debtor, if you like, maybe a bad one. And so therefore they will, begin to start to fleece me with their interest. And of course, I can't pay interest, but that's the way it is. But in the concept of faith and health, it is quite the opposite. I mean, the body that was given to us as a loan. This is where the analogy is. It's a loan, and so therefore you need to come good by the person that gave you the loan. So in actual fact, there's the physical side of things, there's the mental side of things, and of course there's the spiritual side of things. All of these three, like a triangle, and if you know what a triangle is, they're all equal angles, as it were. So they're all intertwined, they're all interspersed, and they all definitely act with one another. So if you take one from the other two or two from the one, then clearly it becomes, completely discombobulated, and that would cause problems. So it's a sacred trust from God requiring respect and care by the believer, i.e., the likes of us who have been trusted with this. We need to maintain health through a balanced living, and of course, avoid harmful behaviors. And these behaviors I'm talking about are the ones that would actually, dishonor us and obviously cause us to be in disarray with the Maker. So I would probably want you to, I don't know how many people know about this, but as Muslims, what we do is we cleanse ourselves before we go to prayer. And this is what it does. This is how it ties in with hygiene. I'm sure you can get one or two things from this. The ablution, which is the cleansing of the body before you go to face your maker, is important because you don't want to be facing the maker in an unclean manner. As they say, cleanliness, as you know, is next to godliness. So that's the kind of thing. And in actual fact, if you think about the human mouth, it is very dangerous, even though we brush it 2-3 times a day. But definitely the bugs and the germs there are unbelievable. Now, Joe will bear me witness, a human bite is very dangerous, even though we clean ourselves, we clean the mouth and all that, we brush it. But I tell you what, it causes a lot of problems for us. In fact, you have to have some strong antibiotics when a human being bites you. And then, of course, there are other things you have to consider, like blood-borne viruses and all that. So it's important to remember that the oral hygiene is part of a vital component of personal wellness and worship. Obviously, personal care is another aspect of it. So you need to be not only clean in the heart, but clean externally as well. It is important because that is what would probably determine whether your prayers are heard, and of course, if they're heard, whether they are actually accepted or granted. So, spiritual significance of physical well-being. There's a connection between health and spirituality, like I've said already. So the physical well-being is deeply connected with the spiritual health or aspect of health that emphasizes the harmony between the soul and the body. Maintaining good physical health, like we said already, enables you to fulfill the religious practices and spiritual obligations effectively. For example, you don't know the impact you are actually having on your health when you pray and kneel and then have to stand up. Just think about it. In fact, research has found out that the way we pray, it actually helps to develop the health system, the immune system, because all of the muscles, all of the bones, all of the joints of the body are called into action. Imagine that. So when my brother asks me how it is I'm looking young, well, this is what I do. I do it 5 times a day. I do it, the going up and down is like 17 on a normal day. It can double up when there's Ramadan, which we'll talk about as we go on. A balanced life is absolutely vital in maintaining the health that God has loaned you. Caring for the body.
Mo, you've been muted.
I don't know who did that. See, again, the Arsenal fans, they're the ones.
They're all around us, unfortunately.
No worries. We remind you forever. So in light of the physical side of things, there's also the dietary aspect of it. And this is where we're talking about discipline. We've all made new resolutions and things like that. We won't drink, we won't smoke, we won't eat as much. Well, I guarantee you, some people fail, I wouldn't say abysmally, but they fail or they fall along the way. And it's important to remember that obviously the kind of food that you eat is what determines how your health is, definitely. Some people eat because there's food. Now, it's important to remember that if you're not hungry, God has given you that center of hunger. He tells you when the body needs to be topped up, when it needs to be replenished. So therefore, listen to it. Don't just do it because at a whim, food is prepared or food is in front of me. If there's a 5-course meal, I have to do it. When you know maybe you can only take 1 or 2 courses. So remember that the food has to meet the requirements. So if you're not hungry, don't go and force feed yourself or comfort eat. And of course, if you're eating, ensure that, as you can see, there are many colors. That's what you need. You don't just need one, like it's maybe red, or green. It has to be all of that, and it has to be processed. It has to be wholesome. It has to be pure. And of course, that in itself will bear fruits in terms of the ethical consumption and, of course, the promotion of health. So very soon, as we all know, we'll be facing Ramadan, or we'll be observing Ramadan. And of course, with that, there's also the Christian aspect. Our brothers and sisters in Christianity, they would be observing Lent as well very soon. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Good Friday is the 3rd or 4th of April. So therefore, Lent would have been obviously a lot earlier. And Ramadan this year will start probably around the 19th,
Good
18th,
Friday,
19th of
Good Friday
February.
the 3rd. It's the 3rd, yeah.
The 3rd, that's it, yeah. So of course, so that's the thing with it. So when we're fasting, as you know, the benefits that you can see as is written there, you can see that beautiful clock, what it shows you. There's nothing there like all these big chunks of meat and things and all that. You can see what is there. So it helps fasting in itself to detoxify the body, because believe it or not, we have toxins in the body, indole, phenols, catol, all of those. And so detoxifying the body, allowing the body to actually cleanse itself, is a big thing, and a very, very highly recommended aspect of life. It's done only once in the year. So I think we can all afford it, especially now when we know it is, what's the word for it? The shorter time of the year, i.e., although the days are beginning to get longer, we're definitely still in the short mode, as opposed to when we were fasting in the summer. So you'd probably observe when you're fasting, you get metabolic improvements. Your metabolism improves. The glucose regulation for those who have resilience to glucose will probably improve. The blood pressure control will improve. And of course, above all, the self-discipline of eating would improve. There's no questions about that. There's benefits all around. Obviously, there are risks as well, but I probably will take it off this topic, because when we're talking about the benefits of fasting, whether religiously or otherwise, that's a whole topic in itself, and I don't think we have the time. But remember, I just said it, moderation in food take. I said that already. It is important to remember. Don't go and gorge. Don't go and fill the belly, and then you end up actually causing problems. And I tell you what, there are people when they're fasting who do this all day long. Obviously, you're not allowed any food or drink. And then when they break the fast, they go and bombard these bowels or the system, the digestive tract, which has been resting. They don't do it gradually. It's amazing how people become egregious in their approach to how they replenish the reserves. You need the balanced diets, and obviously with that you get your vitality, your health improved, and of course your longevity in terms of aging. Yeah. So it is important to remember there is the aspect of mental health as well, and that is actually specified in the Quran and in the prophetic sayings, which are known as the Hadith. Islam encourages reflection as a means of understanding oneself and maintaining mental clarity and peace. Now, we as medics, that's one thing we thrive on. Everything we do, we have to reflect. And sometimes when things go wrong, we reflect. And sometimes when things are good, or most of the time, we still reflect on that, on how we maintain that going forward. So that applies to religion as well. We need to exercise patience, because things, as I say, don't come at a whim, or on a whim, or at one fell swoop. It's something that has to be gradual. And with that, resilience. And I know that it's stated in the Holy Books that the God himself is very, very close to the ones who are patient, and he loves the ones who are patient. And if you look at the 99 names of God in the Islamic perspective, the last one is the most patient, as Sabur. Yeah. So reliance on God is a good thing, as it promotes to foster trust and balance in facing mental and emotional illness, difficulties. Now, obviously, we do have prayers, and I know Pastor Joe will tell you about the importance and obviously the significance of prayer. We all know that. We're not saying avoid going to seek help when you're faced with these things and maybe ascribing them to demons and things. No, you can still seek the help from the medical perspective, but at least you can obviously double that up, or maybe augment that with prayers. That would not be in any way frowned upon. If anything, things happen, miracles happen, and we all know that. So mindfulness, in terms of techniques, they do enhance awareness and promote relaxation. All these hormones, that you think about, the endorphins, the corticosteroids, and all of that, and of course they help in managing stress, which is one thing we're faced with, especially in the beginning of the year, January being the longest month. Sorry. So seeking support is important. The community cohesion and dynamics is absolutely vital in Islam, and of course in any other religion, as far as I know. We have to be collective in terms of caring and helping ourselves, individuals, the ones who are probably not so lucky to be able to manage to get on day by day, either because of illness or because of financial constraints or any other issues they may be facing. Islam recommends empathy, and I think that's what all the other religions recommend as well. It needs to be understood that, look, when we help others, we're actually helping ourselves. It's important. I can't overemphasize that. Counseling is absolutely vital, because that's the way we can actually dig deep into our reserves and actually get to cope with things better and end up with better results. So prevention, as we always say, I think Joe reflects that as well. Prevention is better than cure. So if you go and meet a medic that tells you, I can cure you, well, that medic, I hate to say it, but definitely is not a very good one. But if he tells you, I'll work on where you stumble before I get to where you fell, then definitely I would be doing you a good deed. I'll be standing you in good stead. Because, for example, somebody who has fallen down and broken the hip, yeah, an elderly lady or maybe a middle-aged lady who's now postmenopausal, and they break their hip, if at all you look into it, you find that maybe they would have broken the wrist at some point. And so if at all we had looked at the vitamin D levels and all that, perhaps we could have actually prevented that hip fracture. So for me, prevention is absolutely better than cure. The operation we're going to do is fraught with all sorts of complications. And even after the operation, there's a lot more to cope with, rehabilitation and all that. So, you know, if you actually, what's the word for it? Prevent it as best you can, maybe the cure might not be as taxing or challenging as you would face it if you hadn't done that. So we know about the healing powers of honey. We know about the healing powers of the black seed oil. I don't know how many people use it. I use it practically on a daily basis. We know about cupping in the acupuncture and the reflexotherapy, reflexology, and of course the all of those traditional therapies. They all do have their role in health. There's no questions about that. We talked about cleanliness already. We talked about the ritual supporting the hygiene, as it were. It is absolutely vital that we maintain that tradition going forward, that cleanliness is next to godliness. So, as I said already, if you're unwell or maybe you're poorly or you have issues that are afflicting you, you need to seek help. There's no questions about that. In so doing, it doesn't mean you have to ignore the religious aspect of it. You definitely need that in tandem with the medical side of things. That would help you immensely. We've had these challenges in health and faith, and they've dated, you know, in all of the years that I remember, and even prior to us being on this earth, as it were. So people use faith as a comfort. It provides that emotional comfort and peace during challenging times. Yeah, as we know, trust in the higher powers, it fosters the inner strength to face health challenges. But we've got to remember that trust in the higher powers does not necessarily mean it translates into cure, definitely, or maybe management. There has to be that active sort of actively seeking the help from the learned people, the people who are trained for it, and from the people who know what they can do in terms of the issues that you're afflicted by. And of course, you have to have hope. Having hope is not a bad thing. It's always good. But again, it has to be reasonable. It has to be within the concepts of hope, rather than it being beyond anything else, where people will say, oh, hang on, this is demonic, this is that, and because you don't pray much, that's why you're afflicted with COVID, that's why you're afflicted with mental health. That's absolutely incorrect. So we need to probably take that. They say, I remember somebody said, he is pleasure, he that eats and drinks and thinks with measures. Yeah, so we have to integrate the modern aspect of the religion with the spiritual practices that we do have and that we practice or manifest. Yeah, respecting the needs of the patient is integral in terms of supporting physical health as well as spiritual beliefs. This is what could actually may have witnessed. As you can see, community-sensitive healthcare is vital in terms of improving ourselves, in terms of longevity, in terms of equity, and of course, in terms of coming together as a community. We have to be educating ourselves, and we have to make it bespoke to the needs of the community, increasing the awareness, and of course, encouraging healthy behaviors. This is something we talked about even last night in another setting. It was absolutely important to remember that is the only way we can make valuable steps towards the equity that we all seek for our people. And I wanted to just share this with you. It's a very vital ingredient of mine. Every day I look at it in the morning, and that's what puts me on my way to what I do best when I go to my place of work. If Joe was asking, the other aspect is this. So take care of 5 before 5 takes care of you. Take care of your youth before your old age, which is definitely destined to come. Take care of your health. As we're talking, this is what we're doing now before the sickness steps in or sets in. And it will happen. As you grow older, there are comorbidities. And remember, if you hadn't taken care of the health before then, you probably would not be doing well in terms of recovering or making yourself get better. And of course, remember, wealth. We all talk about it. Some have it, some don't have it, some have in between. But wealth, you need to, look after before possibility of poverty sets in. This is why the guys who are high up there are very ruthless. They don't sleep. They're always there wanting to maintain that. Yeah? And remember, when you have free time, use it well and beneficially before you actually get preoccupied with other things. And finally, take care of your life that is God-given, that is a loan to you, that you're trusted with before the inevitable actually sets in, death. So I'll finish by this. I've talked a lot, so I'll give you something to just recover from. Have a listen.
Well, we can't hear this, Mo, it's actually muted. We can't hear it. You have to share it with the sound.
Oh, dear.
When you click share at the very beginning, it will ask if you want to share with sound. And if you haven't ticked that, then we wouldn't be able to hear. So we couldn't hear it.
Right. I don't know how I could do that.
We'll try and
now.
play it before the end. Don't worry.
It's fine. No worries. Yeah. So this is the conclusion, as I say. The teachings are such that you have to integrate physical, mental, and spiritual well-being for a comprehensive health perspective. These principles of contemporary relevance offer a timeless and relevant holistic health approach applicable in modern society. Thank you for having me, and I'll be happy to take questions. May 26 be brighter, more fulfilling, and peaceful to all of us. Bless you all, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief. I am going to add myself to the screen so you can see me. Right, there's a few questions already coming up. Thank you for that excellent presentation, by the way, very detailed, very clear. Now, a few very direct questions towards you, asking very specifically, can a Muslim or can somebody who is on medication observe Ramadan? Can they fast?
Yeah, well, there's a short answer and there's a long answer.
Okay.
The short answer is yes, you can, depending on what you're taking. So, for example, you could bear me witness. If you're taking antihypertensives, for example, blood pressure tablets, you probably might need to alter when you take them, if you see what I'm trying to say. Yeah, so that's doable. But obviously, if you're on medication 3-4 times a day, for example, you're taking antibiotics that are 3 times or 4 times a day, because you are, maybe you've got a chest infection or you've got an abscess or something, then clearly for that period of time that you're wanting or needing to take them, you probably need to not fast. And then at the end of the month, you can sort of make up for the number of days that you missed out on. This is just a brief answer, but if you want me to go detail, I'll tell you that.
No, I think it's pretty succinct. Thank you. From a Christian perspective, it's about the same. Generally, if you are unwell, so if you're pregnant, if you're breastfeeding, or if you've got an illness, you're not obliged to fast at that point in time. So, and if you're on medication, like Mo rightly said, depends on the medication. If you're on blood pressure tablets and it's once a day, you can alter when you take it to when you're not fasting. But if you're on 3 times a day or certain other types of medication, it's probably not advisable to fast. I've had this conversation a lot with quite a few of my patients, especially around the Ramadan period. They seem to be coming for you, Mo, because it says here, during periods like Ramadan, how can Muslims maintain healthy habits without burnout or neglecting nutrition and rest? During Ramadan, how can a Muslim maintain healthy habits without burnout or neglecting nutrition and rest?
That is now a question I can answer in 1 minute. I have a talk.
Please, you have 3 minutes.
I have a talk
bear
on
in
that.
mind that we have to finish today.
Exactly. I have a talk on that, and I would need to invite people because I'll be talking about that in the next 3-4 weeks, obviously. But my big problem, as I say, if I'm to personalize it, is obviously maintaining that balance between sleeping and obviously getting ready for work, whilst I know the reserves are dipping. Yeah, it is important to know that there are special meals that you can have that have energy that would, take you through or see you through for the number of hours that you're not able to put anything in the mouth or drink anything. That's an important thing. It's important to remember, as my brother said, failing to prepare is preparing to fail. This is a very clever man, Benjamin Franklin, that actually made that expression. Yeah. And when Ramadan is approaching now, like here now, as we're speaking on this particular day, this is Rajab. This is the 3 months, the 3 sacred months. So there's Rajab, the Sha'ban, and then Ramadan. So again, for example, if you're wanting to go to Hajj, to Umrah, you know that the task that you're faced with is absolutely unenviable, because going around that stone is about 35 minutes per round, if you like. Okay, so if you're not physically fit, you won't be able to do that. Same applies to Ramadan. As you know, Ramadan is coming. Get yourself checked. For you, for diabetic or hypertensive, there's a guidance they have. I see my brother is nodding his head. You would be assessed, and you would then be classed as a person who is under the green or under the yellow or under the red. If you're under the green, then yeah, you can fast. Yeah, under the amber, it's a question of you trying it and see whether you can do it or not. If you can't do it, then it's not forceful. And of course, the red, categorically, you shouldn't be doing that. And if you're doing that, well, probably you're putting yourself at risk, and that is not something that is advised. So as a Muslim, I always prepare before Ramadan sets in. And it's so nice that at this particular time we are at, in terms of Ramadan being assessed on the lunar calendar as opposed to the Gregorian calendar, every year it comes forward by 10, 11 days, because the lunar calendar is only 29 or 30 days. And we know the Gregorian has got 31 days for about how many, 4 months, 5 months, or 6 months, something like that. So in total, every time you go on and observe Ramadan, the next year would be 10 days shorter, earlier, I must say. So that's how it is. So now we're getting more towards the winter months. And I tell you what, by 2030, God sparing the lives of all of us, we will be fasting twice in 1 year. We're fasting in December and January of 2030, and it's the shortest period of time for you to observe fasting. Remember, fasting, it doesn't have to be fasting. It's just, what's the word for it? A few hours of not eating, and it will do you a world of good. So this is something you have to sacrifice. It's important for you, because all you're doing 11 months of the year is just bombarding this body. Yeah? Think about it. If you don't sleep for one day, what happens to your head? What happens to your heart? Yeah. And now you're looking at the whole year bombarding these gods. Give them a chance to recover. And that's what it does for you. It will do a world of good for you. There's no question about that. It's something, a price worth paying. That's what I tell people. Yeah. That 1 month, you will not believe how you become adaptable. I have this talk and I don't want to go into it. I'll tell you what happens day 1, day 2, day 3. And from day 4, you definitely will be sailing it. You'll be absolutely just going through it, the emotions. Because the human body has got reserves, you will not be able to imagine. I can tell you this for free. The last thing I'm saying is that there's a able-bodied person who died in a fire that broke out in a building that the disabled person on a wheelchair was with that person. They managed to save themselves because they had the resolve. I'm not dying in this fire. I will definitely save myself. And they actually survived. And the person who was able-bodied died in the fire. So the body has so much reserves, you will not believe it. You try it. Day 2 is the most difficult of Ramadan. And by the time you get to day 3, day 4, you are in, ketoacidosis and you're just sailing it. No questions about that. And it's a good thing because it's not like 24 hours. After dawn or sunset, dusk, you definitely break your fast. Rehydrate yourself, sleep as best you can, exercise as best you can. And I tell you what, you'll be happier and healthier by the time you come out in Shawwal, in Eid.
Thank you very much, Mo. I need to come and listen to that talk of yours. It sounds
absolutely. Thank you.
The truth of the matter is, I'm not sure you're aware of this, but there's actually documented evidence, because I know the Buddhists fast a lot. Christians have Lent. Muslims have Ramadan. There's documented evidence to show the key benefits of fasting to the human body. As a matter of fact, in health, what do they call them now? This lifestyle specialist, all the recommendation now is about intermittent fasting.
Absolutely.
They're looking at it like some kind of new, thing that is, and I'm like, we've been doing this for years.
Yes.
If you've been a Christian or a Muslim or you're a Buddhist, we've been doing this for years, but now they're selling it like some kind of rave, intermittent fasting, you do this and that. I've been doing from a teenager, when I've been a Christian, I've been fasting and I've seen the benefits. So there's no doubt about it that if you put your mind to it and you actually do this, you proper get the benefits. So thank you very much for that. I think this one's pointing towards me. How can faith help when motivation is low and life feels overwhelming, especially with work, family, and financial pressure? And feel free to contribute. But the truth of the matter is, faith should be the anchor to everything that you do. Faith, if you're a believer in Christ, if you're a Christian, then that should be what you anchor your whole life on. Everything should revolve around that. That's why I did my presentation the way I did it. There's empirical evidence, scientific evidence to show that whatever kind of faith you have, whatever kind of belief system you have, it is still better than not having one at all. If you now want to go into the individual faiths, you can find things to help you here and there. In the Bible, you can find scriptures that will help you to say, look, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will strengthen your path. You can find comfort in that. And I'm sure Mo will have something to say about this as well, in terms of how do you find motivation when you're feeling low, when you're feeling overwhelmed?
There's one thing. I mean, we're all faced with adversity at some point in our lives. This is just the human way. We're tested by the Almighty to see how our faiths are. What is it, as Joe is saying, how is it, what is it anchored on? Is it hypocrisy? Is it just flimsy? Is it really solid? Yeah? And the way of actually proving that is what's your tenacity? What are your skills of coping? This is why, as I say, counseling is absolutely important. Seeking the help you need. You see, when we are faced with these things, people always shy away from it. They deny it. That is not my portion. This is not my cross. Yeah? But I tell you what, accepting it, to say, look, I tell you what, I know this is what it is, but I'll rise. I'll fight. With every breath in my body, with every fiber of my body, I will fight. Do that, and you would have justified your being in this world. We will have that. It's written in the holy books that do people think that we will just give them ease without testing them? No, because God and Satan went their separate ways because he said, oh, you cannot be my boss. You made me from fire and you made Adam from dirt and you want me to prostrate myself to Adam. That's impossible. So because of his pride, they went their separate ways. And he said, well, I tell you what, before I go, I need you to reward me for being, worshipful for the time that I was. He said, well, what would you like? He said, well, I need the power to be able to turn people's minds against you. So i.e., I know I'm going to hell, but I need some people to follow me with it. So he said, yeah, take that. And then God said, well, I tell you what is it you think you're going to gain? He said, oh, my hell will be full. And then God responded and said, I tell you what, your hell will be full with your people, but my heaven will be full with my people. So now there has to be that dichotomy, there has to be that distinction between the heaven-led or heaven, going to heaven and, of course, going to hell. There has to be that. So the only way you can prove that is by being tested. But once you're tested, remember, there is, as they say, innamal usri yusra. Wherever there's a test, that stern nature of that test, there is respite very close by. They go in tandem. What we don't have is the patience to actually stand that, to withstand that. And we have enough resilience in ourselves. Imagine somebody who is limbless and they're going to pray. Someone who has got 4 limbs does not want to go to pray. What does that tell you? Because I've got money, I don't want to do that. So that's the thing I'm talking about. If you're tested by something that is really, really low down there, you don't want to, but remember, there's always ways and means of doing things. You can always ask for support. And as I said, with the prayers and with your own movements, i.e. your attempts to improve the situation, I guarantee you, you will see respite. Because believe you me, there's always one person who's worse off than you.
Yeah. So life is full of tests.
Absolutely.
You can't avoid them. That's absolutely true. Now, this is coming back to you again. I think we're coming back to Ramadan and fasting. Now, it says here, I have a pregnant person who insists on fasting, especially during Ramadan. What would your advice be for this person? And let me add my own question. Are there exclusions for Ramadan? Are there specific? Because I get patients who try to argue with me as a GP, and over the years, I've learned a lot about how, for example, we prescribe long-acting metformin for people, so that they can still take their metformin and while they're fasting. But in this is specifically not talking about a pregnant woman or pregnant woman. Is it right for her to insist on fasting during Ramadan? And are there other exclusions that you can tell us about?
See, you mentioned it earlier on. You said the lactating mother, the pregnant woman, the woman on her menses, on her period.
Yeah.
All right. The person who's unwell, i.e. poorly, taking maybe medication, maybe 3-4 times a day or whatever. And of course, somebody who is traveling. Yeah, like for example, I remember I left UK and went to the US. There's an 8-hour difference. I couldn't fast because clearly I tried it. I was midway and then, oops, I had to break my fast. But the important thing here is, as I say, there are women who, there's a rule. You have the above average, the average and below average. Usually I'll tell you, go and get yourself assessed. Yeah. Try it, prepare for it. This is the kind of thing I always tell people, prepare for it. In the preparation, you'll be able to assess whether indeed you can actually, fathom it or you can actually cope with it.
Where do they get this assessment? That somebody asked that question.
The diabetic clinics, the diabetic nurses and all that, the specialists, they all do that. They have the assessment tool. I could actually, as I say, when I do my talk, I send the invite and you see it. I have a copy of that.
Where is this talk happening, Mo?
I'll send you the link.
Okay. So Mo is going to talk to us about all things fasting, how to assess, the different types. When you can do a self-assessment just by looking at that.
Definitely.
So thank you for that. So
if you can't do it, the specialist or the healthcare personnel would actually look into it and map you. It depends on your HbA1c, depends on your height, your BMI, depends on your comorbidities, and things like that. All of that will be mapped up and then decide, and you will then be given like if you like green, yellow, red, the traffic light system.
Like
and if you're under the red, then clearly, But remember, you're now caring not only for yourself, but for another life. Therefore, think about that life before you make that decision. Yeah, you might want to fast, which is good, admirable, really commendable. But Allah Himself said it in His Quran that if you are pregnant, it is not incumbent upon you to fast.
Thank you.
I want you to be clear. It's not incumbent upon you to fast. However, when you put to bed, maybe 9 months later or so, you can then make up. You have a whole year to make up for that 1 month that you lost out on. But please, 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 don't make sure that baby in your belly becomes a bit, I would say, suffers. That's the word. All right. Suffers because of your decisions. You've not asked them whether they want you to do that. So do it in a way when it's judicious. Just think about it. Somebody does something to you and did not ask your consent. And if it's something that is definitely, deleterious to you, I don't think you'll be happy. So think about that in that perspective. Yeah, they say in the hadith, la darara wa la dirar. They say, do not harm, and therefore there is no reciprocation of harm. Okay. I rest my case from that. I'm sure you can understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah. I mean, it's absolutely clear. Thank you for that. This is an interesting question here. I think it goes both ways, but it says, how do we break unhealthy habits that feel normalized in our culture, like poor diet or avoiding medical checkups? This is for you, Mo.
I like that. It's a very short answer and a very clever answer. If you spell the word habit, which is what they're alluding to, is Habit. I remember my professor telling me, if you take the H away, what do you end up with?
A bit.
That's it. That is how you do it. It's as simple as that. So you need to be determined. You need to probably be resilient. You need to actually rise up to the challenge and say, I tell you what, this is it. Yeah? I cannot deal with this. I mean, imagine me telling you that every 40-year-old Afro-Caribbean or black person or brown person should definitely have their eyes checked against glaucoma. You'll be opening your eyes and say, oh, hang on. Well, yeah, we're more affected. Yeah. So by the time you wait until you're 50, I guarantee you it might be a bit late. Same applies to things like prostate cancer, prostatitis, enlarged prostate. Every 2 black people may well have it without knowing it until they start feeling the symptoms when it's a bit too late. So screening is good. It's important. It's absolutely vital. In the UK, there's 3 screening tests they take, mandatory. The colonic one, i.e. for the colon cancer, and of course for the cervical cancer, and of course for the breast. But they fail to realize there's a big, big one, which is the prostate. And now they're saying the test that they do have is not reliable, therefore it's no value for money. But I tell you what, where I grew up, half a loaf is better than none. Yeah?
Okay, thank you, Mo. I know, let's not get into where you grew up. We might be here all day. We don't want to go there.
No, absolutely.
We do not want to go there. Thank you.
No.
This other interesting question that says here, this is totally off grid. It says, what's the role of the crisis team in an A&E setting?
Yeah, I think I saw it.
Can they assist a 15-year-old who has sleeping problems, anxiety, low mood, with background learning difficulties? Oh my goodness. Now, you're an A&E consultant. I have special interest in it.
Exactly.
Choose your
I mean, actually, the crisis team, well, they mainly deal with the adults, although there are times when there's a crossover between the youth or the children and adults, definitely, yeah. Their role there is obviously to ensure that people who have suicidal ideation, suicidal tendencies or thinking about it, will probably be sort of assessed, will be spoken to and analyzed in terms of the risk of self-harm, the risk of obviously taking their lives and all that, and trying to mitigate against that. in a way, but mainly it's probably mind. That is I think the organization that I know that deals with this kind of things mainly on a regular basis in the community. But in the A&E, they only come to us, and the crisis team would get involved when there is the risk of a loss of life, i.e., they want to take their own life, or they have expressed, ideas, or maybe willingness to do that. And obviously, if there's a way of stopping that, if they need admission because they need to protect them from themselves or from the surrounding, then definitely that is being done. But other than that, crisis team is specifically for when there is the risk of suicide.
Thank you, Mo. I think that answers it very succinctly. There's another interesting question here that says, what does looking after the body as a temple really mean in practical, everyday terms? Because I know you alluded to this in your presentation.
Exactly. Yeah. I think we said that already.
Maybe the fellow came late, but do you mind expatiating a little bit on that?
Well, I mean, as I said, there's a spiritual aspect of it. There is if you like, the health aspect of it, and of course, there's the physical aspect of it. So all of these, as I say, are intertwined, they're interspersed, and they rely on one another. And so obviously, you can't delink one from the other two, or two from the one. Impossible. They all work in tandem. So therefore, it is important to remember that if you look after the body will look after you. It's as simple as that. It's a symbiotic relationship. If you don't do that, you will definitely pay for it. So the body being a temple, obviously, you know what we do in temple. We all don't pray in temples, but we know the temple is a religious institution, a religious building. And so therefore, you look after the body as you would look after your religion. It's as simple as that. So comply to those, and whatever you're faced with, you probably deal with in the way you should. It's as simple as that. But when you go on and then adulterate it, if that's the word for it, or maybe used, some aspects of life that are not how it should be, then clearly you will pay the price. And somebody asked the question, if I drink 12 cans of beer a day, how long will I last? Well, I think the answer to that is quite obvious. Yeah. If you were to last 70 years, you would last up to 40 years if you're lucky, maybe 50 years at a stretch. So that's it. If I was to smoke one cigarette, which I don't, and then somebody smokes 20 cigarettes a day. Yesterday, I had a patient who was 49 and under 50. You tend not to diagnose COPD, which is a terminal disease. Remember that. And that's all man-made. You decided to smoke. And if you look at the pack, it's written there. Smoking, nicotine, tobacco causes cancer. There's no questions about that. So you know it. You went into it open-eyed. You need to look after the body. It's a God-given loan to you. Yeah? Be a good debtor, not a bad debtor. And you only can do that if you look after the body in the context of it being a temple. Yeah? Do things in measures. Eat, drink in measures. Nobody's saying you have to stop drinking. I don't drink, I don't smoke. But if you're doing it in measures, you probably will benefit from that. But when you overdo it, then clearly you will pay the price for it. Simple as that.
Excellent. Thank you, Mo. We're running out of time. We've got about maybe 5 more minutes. I would like you to speak into the concept of goal setting. It's a new year. People want to achieve things. They want to do Ramadan. They want to do several things. How do you make these plans that you can actually stick to? What would you advise somebody who is trying to do their best? What practical steps can they take to actually get to make those plans that they want to get to?
Well, I think your presentation really nicely, beautifully stated that. I mean, I can't tell you to do something if you haven't yourself made up your mind that this is what I want to do. This is where it is. You have to start. As it is, my brother was saying, a mile is a long distance. We have Sebco and the other guy, but if you take the first step, it's no longer a mile. Yeah. So likewise, if you are a millionaire and you lost a cent, just a penny from the million, you're no longer a millionaire. So that's what it is. So you have to set that goal to say, look, I tell you what, in this particular month, January, this is what I want to do. How you do it is a different thing altogether. You see what I mean? If you rush into it, you will not be able to achieve what you want. I'll give you an example. Somebody, I always go back to my medical hat. Somebody who's had sepsis. This is a big thing. It's a killer. They survived it. There's something called post-sepsis syndrome. Now, post-sepsis syndrome is a big, big thing because it requires determination. It requires resilience. It requires stoicism. It requires family. It requires the other specialties, i.e. the ones, the physiotherapists, you know, the dietitians and all that. So this is all as a team. It encompasses all of the areas. It's not just for you, but you have to set yourself. I have survived sepsis, which is a set. I need now to get to where I was, or maybe just some normality of some sort, even if I couldn't get to where I was before I got ill. And that's the kind of thing I want you to understand. And speaking in riddles, so you get that. You set yourself the goal, and you know this is an achievable goal. So if you can't do it at one fell swoop, break it into phases, break it into stages. And that is how you know I've achieved stage 1 and now stage 2. If I'm going to build Rome, I don't go to do it in one day. I do it in steps. As simple as that. And it's how you maintain that going forward. That is what is a testimony or testament to your, you know, your stoicism and your resilience, that you mean business going forward. Because if you just at the first challenge you just buckle, well, obviously you're not ready for it. That's why the smart thing is important. You set yourself the goals, you know they're realistic, you can achieve them, and just when you get to that peak of the first stage, you push yourself slightly further to get to the second one, and vice versa, third, fourth, fifth. And by the time you realize it, you're a different person. Remember, if when you take the first step, you're really out of breath, relax. Yeah, take your rest. The next day, go back. Maybe this time the wind might be less. Maybe you might feel a bit different. Maybe you're not as hungry as you were. You then have 2 steps. Next thing, 10 steps. Next thing, 10 yards. Next thing, 1 mile. Believe you me, it works, but you have to be determined. You have to set the goal, and with that, you can take everything forward. Thank you.
Fantastic. Last but not the least, what would you say to somebody, and I'm being tongue-in-cheek here, who says to you that, look, I'm going to go to my pastor. I don't need to take medication. I've got high blood pressure. I'm going to go to the imam. I'm going to go to the allergy. What would you say to this kind of person in terms of saying that they're prioritizing their faith over having regular health checks or even taking their medication?
That is self-explanatory. You see, when you go to the imam and you say the imam's prayer will heal you, ask them whether they are on medication for something.
That's a good one. I haven't thought about that one.
I mean, this is it. Because if they believe that they have to seek help, you know, in the conventional way, then that's the answer. The imam will just augment what you're doing already. As I say, miracles happen. Yeah? The imam is not God. Yeah? And there's no way the imam would cure you. I can guarantee you that. As I said in my slide there, take care of your life before death comes in. And death is inevitable. Yeah? It's there. Kullu man alayna fan. We all will perish. There's no to it, no exception. Even the angels, even the animals, as small as the ant, they all will perish. So you got to understand that the imam, you going to them, you're just actually committing, idolatry. You're actually deifying them, and they're not gods. Okay? So you cannot be doing that. And same way, if you were to go to the doctor and say, oh, you're going to cure me, no. Allah says in his book, he says, فَإِذَا مَرِضْتُ فَهُوَ يَشْفِينِ. He says, when I'm ill, he's the one that would cure me. But what he tells you is, go and seek help. Go and seek it where it's required. Not to everybody else. Babalawo and all that will not be the answer. Your answer is, there are people who are trained for that. I mean, think about it. God created his prophets. Amongst them, there's one who was a healer. There's one who was a medic. Christ was a medic.
I remember some nurses saying that we care, but God heals.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. That puts it nicely. So that's what we need to be doing. There's no questions about that. Yeah.
All the medication it helps, but ultimately God is the healer.
Absolutely.
And we have to start. I think that's a good place to stop. We just run out of time. Mo, look, I could talk to you all day and the day after. We need to do this again sometime.
Absolutely.
Thank you very
more.
much. Send me that link about that presentation that you
I will do. I will do.
To help me to sort out a lot of my patients.
Yes, I will do.
Thank you. And so everybody, I hope you've enjoyed the presentation today. I've learned a lot from my friend, my brother, and my colleague, Mo Kamara. There's a lot of stuff. This is all recorded on YouTube. Please go back and listen, share with other people, and let them also be enlightened. I'm going to pass you over to Esther from Cannes to round things up for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Joe and Dr. Kamara. An incredible and very informative and enlightening session. So thank you so much. I will just share a few slides with you all on what we've got going on at Cannes at the moment. And please let me know if you can see my slides.
Yes, we can.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. So yes, first of all, thank you so much for today's informative session. What a great start to the year with our first health hour of the year. But we'll be back here next week on the 17th at the same time, 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. With another session that's just as informative. So please scan the QR code on the screen or email us at info@cannes so that we can register you and make sure you have all the details for our next session. And then if you are a health professional at any level, you are a student, a policymaker, or you know anyone, then please do share with them about our Rising Together conference on the 5th of February as well. And registration closes on the 23rd of January, Friday, the 23rd of January. So please make sure that you register for our Rising Together conference for our global majority nurses and midwives as well. We also have a Black Health Improvement Program for our pharmacy training in Enfield. So please make sure to scan the QR code or email us at our BHIP Enfield email as well. These are CPD accredited sessions for primary care staff. So please make sure that you sign up, or if you know anyone, please share it with them as well. Our Safe Steps hubs as well. So if you know anyone or if you yourself haven't come in for any of our sexual health advice or services that are culturally aware, then please make sure that you call or WhatsApp the number on the screen or email the team at safesteps.london to make sure that you can go into any of our hubs in Lambeth, Southwark or Lewisham. And you'll be very excited to know that nominations are open for the Black Healthcare Awards, which we'll be hosting in July. Again, the QR code is on the screen. There's also a link on our LinkedIn as well. And you can email by the Black Healthcare Awards email as well to make your nominations. We also have our winter gift drive. If you would like to donate anything or give back to some families in need, then please contact Scola from Cannes, and her details are on the screen as well, to be able to give and to donate for some of our families ahead of our celebration, which I'll come on to next, our Family Joy and Wellbeing celebration, which is being held on the 29th of January. Again, please contact Scola if you have any details or you want to donate or to support on the day. And we look forward to seeing you there. It is free entry in Manchester. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope to see you next week. If there's any information you're looking for on any of these programs, initiatives, or events, please look out on our social media to access them as well. Thank you very much, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
And that's our time for today. Whether you joined us on Zoom, Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube, thank you for making the Health Hour part of your Saturday. We hope today's session gave you the right dose of health wisdom that you can share with your friends and family. When we share knowledge, we strengthen our entire community. Mark your calendar. Next Saturday, same time. Got a topic in mind? We want to hear from you at health@cannes.org.uk. Health Hour, hosted by the Caribbean and African Health Network.